What would you do if the person everyone thought was helpless turned out to be the most dangerous person in the room? Zoe Williams walks down the hallway of Jefferson High School, her white cane tapping rhythmically against the polished floor. Her dark sunglasses hide eyes that have known only darkness since birth, but her posture radiates quiet confidence. Students part instinctively as she passes, some whispering, others simply staring. Suddenly, a foot shoots out. Zoe stumbles, her books scattering across the floor like fallen leaves. Laughter erupts from 4 teenagers led by Jason Miller, the principal's son, tall, athletic, and drunk on privilege. "Oops, didn't see you there, blind girl." Jason sneers, his friends cackling behind him. "Maybe you should watch where you're going." Zoe kneels to collect her scattered belongings. Her movements are measured, controlled. As Jason shoves her shoulder hard, something remarkable happens. Zoe's body automatically shifts into a defensive stance, perfectly balanced despite being caught off guard. "You have no idea who you're messing with," Zoe whispers, her voice carrying an edge that silences the laughter momentarily. Jason Miller owns Jefferson High School the way his father owns the principal's office, through fear, favoritism, and the unshakable belief that rules don't apply to him. At 17, he stands 6 feet tall with the build of a linebacker and the entitled smirk of someone who's never faced real consequences. His daily routine includes intimidating freshmen, flirting with cheerleaders, and maintaining his perfect facade for the adults who matter. But Zoe Williams has become his favorite target, a puzzle that frustrates him. Most victims cower or cry. Zoe simply endures with an infuriating calmness that makes his blood boil. "She thinks she's better than us," Jason tells his crew during lunch, watching Zoe navigate the cafeteria with mechanical precision. His fingers drum against the table, betraying his agitation. Sitting there all quiet and mysterious, acting like she's got some secret. His girlfriend Ashley twirls her blonde hair around her finger, barely looking up from her phone. "Just leave her alone, Jace. She's just some weird blind girl. Why do you even care?" But Jason can't let it go. There's something about Zoe's composure that feels like defiance, like she's looking down on him despite being unable to see. It gnaws at him, this feeling that she knows something he doesn't. "Did you see how she moved yesterday when I bumped into her?" Jason continues, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Normal people would have fallen flat on their face. She barely even stumbled." Tyler, his best friend since elementary school, shrugs dismissively. "Dude, she's been blind her whole life, probably just used to it by now." "No, it's more than that," Jason insists, his eyes tracking Zoe as she sits alone at her corner table. "Watch how she holds herself, like she's ready for something." The harassment escalates methodically over the following weeks. Jason starts small, moving chairs so Zoe walks into them, accidentally, bumping her in hallways, loud whispers about freaks when she passes. Each incident seems random to teachers, isolated pranks rather than systematic cruelty. Zoe never reports anything. She adapts to each new obstacle like water flowing around rocks. When Jason moves her lunch table, she finds it without missing a beat. When he hides her textbooks, she calmly asks for replacements from the library. Her refusal to break only fuels his determination. The first major escalation comes on a Tuesday morning in October. Jason corners Zoe by her locker, pressing close enough that she can feel his breath on her face. "You know what I think?" he says, his voice low enough that passing students can't hear. "I think you're faking some of this blind act. Nobody moves like you do without being able to see something." Zoe continues organizing her books, her movements never hesitating. "Your accusation says more about your ignorance than my abilities, Jason." The casual use of his name catches him off guard. "How do you know who I am?" "Everyone knows who you are," Zoe replies evenly. Your voice carries when you think you're being clever. Your cologne is expensive but overpowering, and you walk like someone who's never been challenged. Jason's face flushes red. The observation stings because it's accurate, delivered with surgical precision that makes him feel exposed. You think you're smart, don't you? I think I'm observant, Zoe says, closing her locker with a soft click. There's a difference. As she turns to leave, Jason grabs her wrist. We're not done talking. Zoe goes perfectly still. For a moment, Jason feels a thrill of dominance. Finally, he's gotten a reaction. But then Zoe's free hand moves in a subtle motion that sends lightning through his grip. His fingers open involuntarily, and he stumbles backward, clutching his wrist. Don't touch me again, Zoe says quietly, adjusting her backpack. That's your only warning. She walks away, leaving Jason staring after her in shock and growing rage. For the first time in his life, someone has made him back down, and the humiliation burns like acid in his chest. The lunch incident becomes his masterpiece of calculated cruelty. Jason approaches Zoe's table carrying a full tray of spaghetti and meat sauce, his movements deliberately loud on the tile floor. Zoe tilts her head at the sound but continues eating her sandwich. Hey, Zoe! Jason calls out, his voice artificially friendly. Just wanted to apologize for being such a jerk lately. Zoe's chewing slows. She sets down her sandwich with careful precision. What do you want, Jason? Nothing. Just trying to make amends. He steps closer, the tray balanced in one hand. Maybe we could even be friends. Friends don't grab each other without permission. Zoe observes. Jason's jaw tightens at the reminder of his earlier humiliation. Right, well, let me make it up to you. I brought you some lunch. Whoops! Jason trips, sending the entire tray cascading over Zoe's white shirt and dark jeans. The sauce splatters like blood, pasta clinging to her hair and sliding down her face. The cafeteria erupts in laughter, and phone cameras appearing like vultures. Zoe sits perfectly still as the mess drips from her clothes. She doesn't gasp, doesn't cry, doesn't even flinch. She simply reaches for her napkin and begins cleaning her sunglasses with methodical precision, as if this is just another minor inconvenience. Oh my God, I'm so sorry! Jason performs concern for the watching crowd, his voice booming across the cafeteria. Here, let me help you clean up. I'm such a klutz. He reaches toward her with exaggerated care, and for a split second, Zoe's body tenses. Her shoulders square slightly, her feet shift apart, her hands move to a position that would allow for immediate defensive action. It's subtle, lasting maybe half a second, but Jason feels the change in energy, like static electricity before a storm. Then Zoe relaxes, accepting his fake assistance with grace that makes him look generous to observers and feel frustrated in private. Thank you, Zoe says quietly, her voice steady despite being covered in sauce and shame. Accidents happen. The crowd begins to disperse, their entertainment over, but as Zoe stands to leave, she pauses beside Jason's chair. She leans down slightly, close enough that only he can hear her words. That wasn't an accident, she whispers, her breath warm against his ear. And neither will my response be. She walks away, leaving Jason staring after her with a mixture of anger and something he's never felt before. Genuine uncertainty about what he's gotten himself into. Word spreads through Jefferson High like wildfire over the next few days, though the details change with each telling. Some say Zoe threatened Jason after the lunch incident. Others claim she used some kind of martial arts move on him by the lockers. Most students don't know what to believe, but everyone agrees that something significant is building between them. Jason spends the evening after the cafeteria incident icing his wrist and planning something bigger. He can't let Zoe's whispered threat slide. His reputation depends on maintaining absolute dominance. If word gets out that he's intimidated by a blind girl, his carefully constructed social hierarchy will crumble like a house of cards. "We need to make this public," Jason announces to his inner circle the next morning. Tyler, Marcus, and Brett lean in as Jason outlines his plan, their faces showing a mixture of excitement and nervousness. "I'm talking about something everyone will remember, something that goes viral." Marcus, a stocky sophomore desperate for Jason's approval, nods eagerly. "What did you have in mind?" "A demonstration," Jason says, his eyes gleaming with malicious creativity. "We're going to prove once and for all that Zoe Williams is just a helpless blind girl who's been getting lucky." The setup takes most of the day. Jason convinces the drama club to donate unused stage platforms, claiming he needs them for a special school spirit event. He spreads carefully crafted rumors about an amazing performance that draws curious students to the main courtyard during lunch. Social media buzzes with speculation about what Jason Miller has planned. By noon, nearly half the school has gathered around the makeshift stage Jason has constructed, a series of raised platforms connected by narrow planks, decorated with deliberately placed obstacles. To a sighted person, it would be challenging but manageable. For someone relying on sound and touch, it's designed to be a humiliating trap. Zoe appears at her usual time, navigating toward her preferred lunch spot under the oak tree. But Jason intercepts her path, his voice booming across the courtyard with practiced showmanship. Ladies and gentlemen," he announces like a carnival barker, spreading his arms wide to encompass the growing crowd. "Prepare to witness something truly incredible. Zoe Williams, our school's most talented performer, has agreed to demonstrate her amazing navigation skills." Zoe stops walking, her head turning toward Jason's voice with laser precision. The crowd murmurs with anticipation and confusion. Several students hold up phones, already recording what they sense will be something worth sharing. "I didn't agree to anything," Zoe says clearly, her voice carrying across the suddenly quiet courtyard, despite its normal volume. Come on," Jason cajoles, moving closer with exaggerated disappointment. "Don't be modest, Zoe. Everyone's heard about your special abilities, all those rumors about you being some kind of ninja or whatever. Time to show them off." He gestures grandly toward the platform maze he's constructed, his movements designed to draw attention to the obstacles and narrow passages. "All you have to do is make it from one end to the other without falling. Easy for someone with your supposed talents, right?" The crowd presses closer, phones recording every moment. Zoe stands perfectly still for nearly 30 seconds, and Jason begins to think she'll simply walk away. That would be almost as good. Proof that her confidence is all an act, that she's just another scared teenager hiding behind false bravado. Instead, Zoe steps onto the first platform. "This should be interesting," someone whispers from the crowd. The first section goes smoothly. Zoe tests each plank with her cane before putting her full weight on it, moving with careful precision that draws murmurs of genuine admiration. Her balance is perfect, each step placed with mechanical accuracy that seems impossible for someone who can't see the obstacles. She's actually doing it," Ashley whispers to her friends, sounding almost disappointed. But Jason hasn't revealed his real trap yet. Hidden behind the second platform, Tyler and Marcus wait with water balloons and containers of chocolate syrup, supplies Jason purchased that morning with his allowance money. Their instructions are specific. Wait until Zoe is on the narrow connecting plank. Then strike. As Zoe steps onto the narrow beam connecting the first and second platforms, Tyler hurls the first balloon with the accuracy of a varsity baseball pitcher. It explodes against her shoulder, soaking her shirt and throwing off her carefully maintained balance. Zoe staggers but recovers, water dripping from her hair as she continues forward despite the wet clothes clinging to her skin. The crowd's murmur turns uncertain. This isn't feeling like harmless fun anymore. "What the hell?" someone calls out from the back of the crowd. That's not fair. But Jason isn't finished. The second balloon hits Zoe's legs, followed immediately by Marcus squirting chocolate syrup across the plank in front of her. The sticky brown mess spreads across the wood, invisible to Zoe until her next step lands squarely in it. Her foot slides sideways on the slick surface, and this time she can't recover. Her arms windmill frantically as she tries to regain balance, but physics and gravity conspire against her. She tumbles from the platform onto the concrete below, landing hard on her side with a sound that silences the entire courtyard. Zoe lies motionless for a moment, chocolate syrup and water pooling around her on the grey concrete. Her sunglasses have skittered several feet away, revealing unseeing eyes that stare blindly at the overcast sky. Blood trickles from a scrape on her forehead where she hit the ground. Jason feels a moment of genuine panic. What if he seriously injured her? The thought of real consequences, of police and lawyers and his father's wrath, sends ice through his veins. But then Zoe moves, pushing herself up to sitting position with slow, deliberate movements. Is she okay? Someone asks nervously from the crowd. Oops, Jason says loudly, his nervousness masked by false cheer and theatrical concern. Looks like the demonstration hit a snag. Don't worry, folks, she's fine. Just a little tumble. But as Zoe stands, something fundamental has changed. She moves differently now, still controlled, but with a predatory grace that makes several students step backward instinctively. She locates her sunglasses with uncanny accuracy and slides them back into place, then turns toward Jason with the focus of a heat-seeking missile. That, Zoe says, her voice carrying clearly across the silent courtyard, despite its quiet tone, was a mistake. Jason laughs, but it sounds forced and brittle. What are you going to do about it, blind girl? Sue me? Tell your mummy? Zoe takes a step closer. Then another. The crowd parts before her like she's surrounded by an invisible force field. Even Jason's friends seem to sense that something fundamental has shifted in the dynamic. I'm going to teach you about consequences, Zoe says quietly, each word precisely enunciated. But not here. Not yet. When I'm ready, you'll know exactly when class begins. She walks away, her steps steady and purposeful, despite the chocolate syrup still staining her clothes. Behind her, she leaves a courtyard full of uncomfortable witnesses and a bully who's just realized he might have awakened something he can't control. That afternoon, Zoe makes 2 important phone calls from the privacy of her bedroom. The first is to her martial arts instructor, Master Wong, informing him that her years of patient restraint are about to end. He crossed the line today, Master, Zoe says, her voice steady, but carrying an undercurrent of steel. In front of the whole school. There's no going back from this. Are you certain this is the path you want to take? Master Wong asks, his voice grave with understanding. Once you reveal what you are, everything changes. Everything changed when he made my humiliation into entertainment. Zoe replies, I'm done hiding. The second call is to Mr. Williams, the retired PE teacher who's been watching her situation with growing concern. Zoe has noticed his attention, the way he positions himself to observe her interactions with Jason, the worried look in his eyes when he thinks no one is watching. I need a witness tomorrow, Zoe tells him without preamble. Someone respectable who can verify what's about to happen. Mr. Williams has known Zoe for 3 years, ever since she transferred to Jefferson High. He's watched her endure harassment with incredible patience, always wondering when she would reach her breaking point. Now he has his answer. What exactly should I expect to witness? He asks carefully. Justice, Zoe replies simply, and the end of Jason Miller's reign of terror. Mr. Williams arrives at school that morning with a sense of anticipation that borders on dread. He's known Zoe longer than most people realize, having taught her father in the same school 25 years earlier. When Zoe transferred to Jefferson High, Her father specifically sought out Mr. Williams for a private conversation that still haunts him. "My daughter has been through more than most adults will ever face," David Williams had explained during their meeting in the empty gymnasium. "She lost her sight in a car accident when she was 5, but she's learned to compensate in ways that might surprise people. I need someone here who understands what she's truly capable of." Mr. Williams had agreed to keep an eye on Zoe, never fully understanding what her father meant until he witnessed her moving through the school's crowded hallways with impossible precision. A blind teenager shouldn't be able to navigate chaos so flawlessly, but Zoe glided through the madness like she possessed some kind of supernatural awareness. Now, as he watches Zoe enter the building that morning, wearing different clothes, black pants and a fitted black top that won't restrict movement, Mr. Williams realizes he's about to discover exactly what David Williams meant. During second period, Mr. Williams receives an unexpected visitor. Master Wong appears at his classroom door, a small, elderly man whose presence somehow fills the entire doorway despite his diminutive stature. Students glance up from their work, sensing an authority in his quiet bearing that commands immediate respect. "I need to speak with you," Master Wong says simply, his voice carrying the quiet confidence of someone accustomed to being obeyed. They step into the hallway, where Master Wong gets straight to the point with the efficiency of someone who doesn't waste words. "Zoe called me last night. She's reached her limit with the Miller boy, and she's asked for permission to act." Mr. Williams nods slowly. "I've been expecting something like this. The harassment has been escalating for months. What exactly should I expect to happen?" Master Wong's expression grows serious, his weathered face creasing with concern. "First, let me ask you something. Do you know what Zoe really is?" Mr. Williams considers the question carefully. A remarkable student who's overcome incredible challenges through determination and intelligence. She's the youngest person ever to achieve third-degree black belt in my 40 years of teaching, Master Wong explains quietly, his words hitting Mr. Williams like physical blows. But more than that, she spent 10 years developing senses and abilities that most people can't even imagine. Zoe doesn't just hear better than you or I, she experiences the world in ways that sight actually limits rather than enhances. The revelation hits Mr. Williams like a tsunami. He's seen Zoe's grace, her uncanny ability to avoid obstacles, her perfect navigation through complex spaces. But he'd attributed it to enhanced hearing and years of adaptive practice. 10 years of training? He asks, his voice barely above a whisper. Every single day after school, every weekend, every summer vacation. When Zoe lost her sight, her parents brought her to me because they wanted her to feel powerful instead of helpless. They wanted her to know that she could protect herself and others, that her disability didn't make her vulnerable. Master Wong pauses, watching students stream past in the hallway, oblivious to the conversation that will change everything. I've trained hundreds of students over the decades, but I've never seen anything like Zoe's dedication or natural ability. She doesn't just practice martial arts, she lives them, breathes them, has transformed them into an extension of her very being. The pieces begin falling into place for Mr. Williams like a jigsaw puzzle, finally revealing its picture. Zoe's perfect navigation isn't luck or enhanced hearing. It's the result of developing superhuman spatial awareness through years of intensive training. Her calm reaction to harassment isn't passivity. It's the restraint of someone who knows exactly how much damage she could inflict if she chose to. Her senses, Master Wong continues, have developed beyond anything I thought possible. She can sense your heartbeat from across a room by feeling the minute vibrations it creates. She knows where you are by the way you displace air when you move. She can feel the vibration of your footsteps through the floor and identify you by your breathing pattern before you speak. Mr. Williams feels his worldview shifting. What Jason Miller sees as a disability, Zoe has transformed into her greatest strength. Master Wong finishes. What he perceives as weakness is actually a level of sensory awareness that gives her advantages he can't even comprehend. Then why hasn't she defended herself before now? Mr. Williams asks, though he's beginning to suspect the answer. Because I taught her that true strength is knowing when not to use your power. Master Wong replies, his voice heavy with the weight of difficult decisions. Zoe could have ended this harassment months ago with minimal effort, but she chose patience over violence. She hoped Jason would learn to control himself, that he would develop some semblance of decency without needing to be taught through pain. And now, Master Wong's expression grows grim, his eyes reflecting decades of difficult choices. Now she's asked for permission to teach him directly. In 40 years of instruction, I've only granted that permission 3 times. Each time was because someone crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed, committed an act so egregious that it demanded a response. The morning passes with unusual tension crackling through the hallways like electricity before a storm. Word has spread about yesterday's courtyard incident, and students cluster in groups, discussing what might happen next. Some side with Jason, claiming Zoe brought the harassment on herself by being different, by not fitting in. Others begin questioning whether the bullying has gone too far, whether they've been complicit in something genuinely cruel. Zoe moves through her classes like a gathering thunderstorm. Teachers notice her unusual focus, the way she sits perfectly still during lectures, as if conserving energy for something monumentally important. Her normally meticulous note-taking becomes mechanical, her attention clearly elsewhere, processing strategies and possibilities. During lunch, the courtyard fills with students drawn by morbid curiosity and the irresistible pull of potential drama. Everyone expects another confrontation, though few understand what they're actually about to witness. The atmosphere feels charged, dangerous, like the moments before lightning strikes. Jason arrives with his usual entourage, playing to the crowd with exaggerated confidence and theatrical bravado. But privately, he's deeply unsettled by Zoe's transformation. She's positioned herself at the center of the courtyard, standing motionless with her back to him, but somehow her presence dominates the entire space. "Look who's back for more," Jason announces loudly, his voice carrying false cheer that doesn't quite hide his nervousness. "Ready for another flying lesson, Zoe?" Zoe turns slowly to face him, her movement controlled and deliberate. When she speaks, her voice carries across the suddenly quiet space with crystalline clarity that somehow reaches every person present. "My name is Zoe Williams. I'm 17 years old, and I've been studying martial arts for 10 years under Master Wong of the Golden Dragon Academy." Confused murmurs ripple through the crowd, like wind through wheat. This isn't what anyone expected. Not anger, not tears, not accusations, but a calm recitation of facts that somehow feels more threatening than any emotional outburst. "I am a 3rd-degree black belt in Kenpo Karate and a 2nd-degree black belt in Aikido. I have competed in 14 tournaments across 3 states and have never lost a single match in my division." Jason laughs nervously, the sound sharp and brittle in the quiet air. "What's this? Career day? Nobody cares about your made-up? I train 6 hours a day, every single day, without exception." Zoe continues, her voice cutting through his interruption like a blade through silk. "I can break 3 inches of solid oak with my bare hands. I can disable an opponent twice my size without causing permanent damage. I can sense your movements from 20 feet away and counter them before you complete the intended motion." The crowd has gone completely silent now. Phones appear in hands, recording this unprecedented moment, but most students are simply staring in fascination at this revelation of hidden depths. "I've spent the last 6 months being patient with you, Jason Miller, because my training emphasizes restraint and respect for all living beings. I chose to absorb your cruelty rather than respond to it because I hoped you would eventually learn to control your worst impulses. Zoe takes a step forward, and Jason instinctively steps back, his body responding to threats his conscious mind hasn't yet processed. Yesterday, you crossed a line that changes everything. You didn't just attack me, you turned my pain into entertainment for others. You made my humiliation into a public spectacle for your amusement. Her voice carries no anger, just the cold certainty of an approaching storm. That changed the rules completely. Master Wong appears at the edge of the crowd, moving through the students like smoke, his presence commanding immediate space and respect. Mr. Williams follows close behind, his phone discreetly recording everything while positioning himself where he can intervene if necessary, while remaining close enough to witness whatever unfolds. "You're bluffing," Jason says, but his voice lacks any conviction. "You're just trying to scare me with some weird karate fantasy bullshit." Zoe removes her sunglasses with deliberate ceremony, revealing eyes that are completely white from the cataracts that destroyed her vision 12 years ago. But as she focuses on Jason's voice, those unseeing eyes seem to track his movement with impossible accuracy, as if she can see directly into his soul. "I'm not here to scare you, Jason," Zoe says quietly, her voice carrying absolute certainty. "I'm here to educate you. Class is about to begin." Jason looks around the courtyard with growing desperation, suddenly aware that he's become the center of attention in a way he never planned or wanted. Students press closer, forming a loose circle around him and Zoe, their faces showing a mixture of anticipation and anxiety. Everyone knows something significant is about to happen, something that will be remembered and discussed for years. "This is ridiculous," Jason announces, trying to regain control of the rapidly deteriorating situation. "I'm not going to fight some blind girl. That would be like beating up a cripple. What kind of monster do you think I am?" The words are carefully calculated to make him look reasonable and compassionate, while simultaneously diminishing Zoe. But they have the opposite effect. Several students exchange disgusted glances at the crude language. Even some of Jason's closest friends seem uncomfortable with the dismissive cruelty. Zoe stands perfectly still, her head tilted slightly, as if listening to something only she can hear. The rapid beating of Jason's heart, the shallow breathing that betrays his fear, the subtle shift in his stance that indicates preparation for flight rather than fight. "You're scared," Zoe observes with clinical detachment. "Your heart rate just increased to approximately 120 beats per minute. You're breathing through your mouth instead of your nose. You've stepped backward 3 times in the last 2 minutes, and your weight is shifting toward your back foot." "I'm not scared of you," Jason snaps, but even he can hear the uncertainty creeping into his voice like cracks in a dam. "Your body language suggests otherwise," Zoe replies calmly. "But fear is actually wisdom in this case. You should be afraid." "Then prove it," Jason says, desperation making him bold. "You've spent months telling everyone how weak I am, how I'm just a bully picking on someone helpless. Here's your chance to demonstrate that superiority you seem so confident about." The challenge hangs in the air like smoke from a gun. Jason realizes too late that he's been maneuvered into a corner. Backing down now would be social suicide, complete humiliation in front of the entire school. But engaging feels increasingly dangerous as Zoe's confidence remains absolute and unshakable. "Fine," he says finally, his voice cracking slightly. "But when you get hurt, when you're lying on the ground crying, remember that you asked for this. You forced me into this." Jason charges forward, relying on size and raw aggression to overwhelm Zoe quickly. He's fought other students before, usually smaller kids who couldn't fight back effectively, conflicts that ended with his opponents on the ground and his reputation enhanced. His plan is brutally simple: grab Zoe, throw her down hard, and end this humiliation before she can try any of her supposed martial arts moves. He never makes contact. Zoe sidesteps Jason's rush with liquid grace, her movement so minimal and perfectly timed that she seems to simply vanish from his path like morning mist. Jason stumbles past her, thrown completely off balance by meeting no resistance where he expected solid impact, his momentum carrying him several feet beyond his target. Lesson 1, Zoe comments conversationally as Jason recovers his footing. Too much force, too little control. You fight like someone who's never faced real opposition, someone who's only ever dominated weaker opponents. Rage floods Jason's system like poison, washing away caution and strategy. He spins around and swings a wild haymaker at Zoe's head, putting all his strength and frustration behind the blow, aiming to end this humiliation with one devastating punch. Zoe ducks under the swing with millimeters to spare and flows forward, her hands moving in precise patterns that Jason doesn't recognize. Something happens to his extended arm, a sharp, focused pressure at his elbow that sends lightning through his entire nervous system. His fist opens involuntarily, fingers going completely numb as if his arm has been unplugged. Pressure point manipulation, Zoe explains in the same conversational tone, as if she's teaching a class rather than fighting for her dignity. Temporary paralysis of the radial nerve cluster. You'll regain full function in approximately 10 minutes, assuming no permanent damage was done. The casual expertise in her voice sends chills through the watching crowd. This isn't lucky self-defense or desperate flailing. It's surgical precision applied to human anatomy, with the confidence of someone who's done this many times before. Jason tries to tackle her with his good arm, desperation overriding any pretense of strategy or technique. Zoe simply isn't where he expected her to be when he arrives. She moves like water, flowing around his attack, and somehow ending up behind him before he realizes what happened. Her position perfect for any number of devastating follow-up techniques. A slight pressure at the base of his neck, precisely applied to the carotid artery, drops Jason to his knees instantly. He can't move, can't speak, can barely breathe as his vision starts to darken around the edges. Panic floods his system as he realizes Zoe could do anything to him right now, and he'd be completely helpless to stop her. Carotid restraint, Zoe explains to the fascinated and horrified crowd, her voice remaining calm and educational. Properly applied, it restricts blood flow to the brain without damaging the airway or causing permanent injury. Very effective for controlling aggressive opponents who won't listen to reason. She releases the pressure, and Jason gasps like a drowning man breaking the surface, falling forward onto his hands and knees. His vision clears slowly, revealing Zoe standing calmly beside him, not even breathing hard from the brief encounter. "Stand up," she says quietly, her voice carrying absolute authority. "We're not finished with your education yet." Jason struggles to his feet on shaking legs, sweat pouring down his face despite the cool October air. Everything he believed about himself, about power and dominance and control, is crumbling around him like a house built on sand. He's supposed to be the alpha, the dominant one, the person who controls others through strength and intimidation. But Zoe is dismantling him piece by piece with frightening ease and obvious restraint. "I don't understand," he gasps, his voice small and broken. "How can you do this? You can't even see me." "Sight is overrated," Zoe replies with the patience of a teacher addressing a slow student. "You rely entirely on your eyes, so you only notice what's directly in front of you. I use everything: sound, vibration, air pressure, heat patterns, scent, the electromagnetic fields generated by your nervous system." She takes a step closer, and Jason automatically backs away like a beaten dog. "Right now, I know exactly where every person in this courtyard is standing. I can tell who's nervous, who's excited, who's preparing to run if this gets worse. I know you're about to cry because your breathing pattern changed and your core body temperature dropped. I know you're planning to try one more desperate attack because you keep shifting your weight to your right foot, and I know that attack will fail because you're telegraphing your intention 15 seconds before you act." Sure enough, Jason lunges forward exactly as predicted, his movements clumsy and desperate. Zoe meets his charge with a precise uppercut to his solar plexus that folds him in half, gasping for air like a landed fish. As he doubles over, she catches his shoulders and guides him gently to the ground with almost maternal care. Jason lies curled on the concrete, struggling to breathe while Zoe stands over him like an avenging angel. The courtyard is completely silent, except for the sound of his labored breathing and the distant traffic from the street beyond the school grounds. "This is what real power looks like," Zoe says, addressing the crowd as much as Jason. "It's not about hurting people weaker than you or making others suffer for your entertainment. It's about having the ability to stop people who hurt others, the knowledge to protect those who can't protect themselves." She kneels beside Jason, her voice dropping to a whisper that only he can hear, words that will haunt his dreams for years to come. "If you ever touch me again, if you ever target another student who can't defend themselves, if you ever make someone else's pain into your entertainment, I will not be this gentle. This was restraint, Jason. This was mercy. Do you understand the difference?" Jason nods frantically, tears streaming down his face, his carefully constructed image of invincibility shattered forever. Zoe stands and walks away, leaving behind a bully who will never feel truly safe or confident again. The video of Zoe's demonstration spreads through Jefferson High within hours, then explodes across social media platforms by evening. Unlike Jason's cruel recording from the day before, this footage shows something remarkable. A young woman transforming victimization into empowerment through skill, patience, and precise action. The reaction is immediate and transformative. Students who witnessed the confrontation can't stop talking about Zoe's composure, her surgical precision, the way she controlled every aspect of the encounter without ever losing her temper or causing unnecessary harm. Principal Miller faces an uncomfortable reckoning when the video reaches the school board. His son's behavior can no longer be ignored or explained away as teenage mischief. The systematic harassment of a disabled student, captured on multiple recordings, represents a liability the district cannot afford. Jason disappears from school for 3 days, supposedly sick with flu. When he returns, he's a different person, subdued, careful, constantly looking over his shoulder. He no longer holds court in the cafeteria or dominates hallway conversations. The confident bully has been replaced by someone who understands, perhaps for the first time, what it feels like to be afraid. Zoe becomes something unprecedented at Jefferson High, a student whose reputation is based on both vulnerability and strength. Younger students seek her out for advice about handling bullies. Teachers treat her with new respect, finally understanding that her quiet confidence was never passivity. The changes extend beyond personal relationships. Master Wong visits the school to meet with administrators, offering to establish a self-defense program for students with disabilities. The school board, eager to demonstrate their commitment to inclusion and safety, approves the program unanimously. Zoe finds herself at the center of something larger than she expected. Interview requests arrive from local news stations wanting to feature her story as inspiration. A regional magazine asks her to write about her experience for their anti-bullying campaign, but the most meaningful change is smaller, more personal. Students who previously ignored Zoe now greet her in hallways. The lunch table where she sits alone for months gradually fills with others, not out of pity, but from genuine desire to know the person behind the remarkable demonstration. Mr. Williams becomes the faculty sponsor for Zoe's new martial arts club. Master Wong donates equipment and time, teaching basic self-defense to anyone interested in learning. The program draws students of all abilities, creating an unexpected community united by the desire to feel empowered rather than victimized. 6 months later, Zoe receives a letter from a girl in another state who saw the video online. The girl, also visually impaired, had been considering homeschooling to escape harassment at her own school. Instead, inspired by Zoe's example, she enrolled in martial arts classes and stayed to fight for her place. Zoe frames the letter and hangs it in her bedroom, a reminder that strength shared becomes strength multiplied. The quiet girl who once walked alone through hostile hallways has become something more powerful than she ever imagined. Not just a warrior, but a teacher, showing others that their greatest weaknesses can become their most formidable strengths. Zoe's story proves that real power isn't about size, wealth, or social status. It's about preparation meeting opportunity, patience building toward action, and the quiet confidence that comes from knowing exactly who you are when the world tries to tell you who you should be. Every day, in schools and workplaces and communities across the world, there are Jasons, people who mistake cruelty for strength, who build themselves up by tearing others down. And every day there are potential Zoes, individuals with hidden depths, secret strengths, and the capacity to transform their pain into purpose. The question isn't whether you have the ability to change your circumstances. Zoe was born blind, lost in a world designed for the sighted, facing obstacles that would defeat most people before they started. But she chose to develop what she had instead of mourning what she lacked. What are you developing? What skills are you building in the quiet moments when no one is watching? What strength are you cultivating for the day when someone tries to diminish you? Zoe spent 10 years preparing for 6 minutes of action. How are you preparing for your moment? The next time someone underestimates you, what will they discover about who you really are? Your moment is coming. Are you ready?